Now, from the Columbia Basin, your local news source, this is iFIBER 1 News, presented in high definition. The #1 source for real-time local news, local sports headlines, and our very own Weather Center forecast covering the entire Columbia Basin. With your iFIBER 1 News team, reporting news in real time as it's happening. From the iFIBER Communications HD broadcast studio in Ephrata, Washington, this is iFIBER 1 News, and it starts now.
Welcome to iFIBER 1 News. I'm Cody Johnson reporting news from around the Columbia Basin for Tuesday, May 21st. Tonight we report on how the Quincy police have come under fire by a group of citizens, and how Ephrata is discussing the removal of semi-trucks from residential streets. We also look at how the Moses Lake City Council approved a new business that might compete with their concession stand. And we look at just how costly a dog bite could be. In sports, we'll tell you about several athletes from the Columbia Basin who are competing at the state level in tennis, softball, and golf. Our spotlight story tonight is about emergency crew training at the Grant County International Airport. And we have the latest weather forecast for the Columbia Basin from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center. Our top story tonight, Quincy police officials faced accusations of mismanagement, a lack of police officers, and not dealing with crime in the city. Police Chief Richard Ackerman and Captain Gene Freitheim fielded questions from two crowded town hall meetings recently, while a group of about 20 protesters called for them to be fired. The group sent letters to the editor of the Quincy Post-Register newspaper complaining about the amount of crime in the city. Writers were upset at a perceived increase in crime and the number of police officers on patrol. One accusation is the police are missing officers because of the work environment. Ackerman rejected the allegation and said 2 officers left to be closer to their families, and 1 is on suspension pending a result of an investigation. Ackerman's response to criticism were an attempt to educate people about the complexities and costs of hiring more police. He also said they are working toward improved crime reporting to help them focus their efforts. Quincy City Council meets tonight and will report if there's any more discussion about the police department. There is a lot more on this story, and you can read about it on our website at ifiber1.com/news. Tractor trailers may need to leave Ephrata's residential streets. Ephrata City Council agreed to look into prohibiting tractor trailers from parking on residential streets after a woman complained about a neighbor leaving a truck on her street. Recently, city code allows the trucks to park on the residential streets as long as they're moved within 72 hours. City Administrator Wes Crago said part of the enforcement issue is it's not a one-time sweep. The police have to mark it and then come back and check it, and literally, if it's rolled around the block and parked several feet over, they have complied with the terms of the law. Resident Bonnie Clark told the council she was frustrated with a semi-truck being parked in front of her house. She said the truck took up the middle section of her block, blocking her view from the house. Council members and Police Chief Mike Warren discussed different options regarding enforcement, but there were no proposals to change the ordinance. Moses Lake is getting closer to getting a hot dog cart. The City Council approved a request from David Johnson allowing him to set up a food cart at St. Cayuse Square and Cascade Valley soccer fields to sell hot dogs, pop, and chips. Johnson initially came to the council in March asking to sell food during lunch on the weekdays. The council raised concerns about Johnson competing with the city's concession booth during the events and asked him to meet with Parks and Recreation Director Spencer Grigg. After speaking to Grigg, Johnson narrowed down the locations to St. Cayuse Square between 10 a.m. until around 2 p.m. and the soccer fields. Councilmember Dick Dean was concerned with Johnson competing with other merchants in the area. Councilmember Karen Liebrecht said, as far as it's being a conflict of interest, he still has to pay taxes. He still has to get a business license. He has an investment in his cart, I think it would add a very nice addition to our downtown charm. The majority of the council approved the request. Dean did oppose it, and Councilmember David Colonel was absent. Each of the people you see here have warrants for their arrest and are wanted by various law enforcement agencies. If you see any of these people, the DOC asks that you not attempt to detain or apprehend them, but to call police. You can also call the Department of Corrections at 509-764-6180 during the day, or 509-762-1160 after 5 p.m. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages with the latest from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center. And we've got sports and more news coming up.